Good morning, all. Am I audible? Great. Good morning. So we are starting the reading club with the prayer.
भेद भाव अपने दिल से साफ कर सके, दोस्तों से भूल हो तो माफ कर सके, झूठ से बचे रहे, सच कदम भरे, को जय करे, हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मुश्किलें पड़े तो हम पर हित न कर्म कर, साथ दे तो धर्म का, चले तो धर्म पर, खुद पे हौसला रहे, बदी से ना डरे, दूसरों की जय से पहले खुद को जय करे, हमको मन की शक्ति देना.
Good morning, all. We are giving tribute to a great master, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, for this wonderful divine science and taught us dare to be wise. Seeking blessings from our Guru, Dr. Prafull Vijayakar, sirs, who have made this divine science to learn in a mathematic way and made homeopathy easy like mathematics. Jai Hanuman, Jai Homeopathy, Om Vijay Karaya Namah. Friends, we are in the journey of reading The Wisdom of Organon of Medicine by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, 6th editions. So up till now, we have covered the theoretical part from 1 to 70 aphorism, followed by the understanding of the disease part and the case taking part, followed by the understanding of the medicine in terms of the proving. So it was Hahnemann who was the one to open the path of the proving, and he started the proving, and he know the pathogenetic power of the medicines, and then it applied the law of similia to cure the patients. So we are continuing with this process of proving. So he said about the proving in many ways, that it should be proved in healthy prover, it should be proved on the physicians. The physician is the best prover if it proved on the another experimenters. So they have to note down everything with the accurate things in a day to day. And also, if the person is not able to write it out, so they go to the physician and tell the whole history without any interpretations. So, in continuation of this, but the best proving of the pure effect of the simple medicines in altering the human health and of the artificial disease and the symptoms they are capable of developing in the healthy individual are those which are healthy, unprejudiced, and sensitive physicians. So, Hahnemann advised that every physician of the homeopath has to prove one of the things because he is the healthy, unprejudiced, and the sensitive physician. Institute on himself with all the cautions and care he enjoined. So this is very important that he can note down every minute details and the drug is proved thoroughly. He know with the greatest certainty the things he has experienced in his own person. So this is what very important. So aphorism footnote number 103. Those trials made by the physician on himself have for him other and inestimable advantages. In the first place, the great truth that the medicinal virtue of all drug whereon depends their curative power lies in the change of the health he has himself undergone from the medicine he has proved, and the morbid state he has himself experienced from them become for him an incontrovertible fact. Again, by such noteworthy observation on himself, he will be brought to understand his own sensations, his mode of thinking, and his dispositions, foundations of the all true wisdom, and he will be also trained to be what every physician ought to be, a good observer. All our observations on others are not nearly so interesting as those made on ourselves. The observer of the other must always dread lest the experimenter did not feel exactly what he said, and lest he did not describe his sensation with the most appropriate expression. So this is what the advantage of the physician who proved on himself. He must always remain in a doubt whether he has not been deceived, at least at some extent. So this obstacle to the knowledge of the truth, which can never be thoroughly surmounted in our investigations of the artificial morbid symptoms that occur in other from the ingestions of the medicines, ceases entirely when we make the trial on ourselves. So this is what the advantage of the proving on the healthy physicians. He who makes this trial on himself knows for the certain what he has felt, and each trial is a new inducement for him to investigate the power of other medicines. He thus becomes more and more practiced in the art of observing, of such importance to the physicians by continuing to observe himself and on one on whom he can most rely and will never deceive him, and this he will do all the more jealously as this experiment on himself promised to give him a reliable knowledge of a true value and significance of the instrument of the cure, that means the medicine, that are still to the great degree unknown to our art. So let it not be imagined that such slight indisposition caused by taking medicines for the purpose of proving them can be in the main injurious to the health. Experience shows, on the contrary, that the organism of the prover becomes, by this frequent attack on his health, all the more expert in the repelling all external influences inimical to his frame and all artificial and natural noxious agent, and become more hardened to resist everything of an injurious character by means of this moderate experiment on his own persons with the medicine. His health become more unalterable, he become more robust, and as all experience. So these few lines suggest that our medicine has a power, and if we are applying this law of our medicine to apply on the human being, so it will improve the immune systems, and this immune system will repel all the disease. So this is what the answer to the conventional medicines when they ask how your medicines can improve the immunity. So this is what the Master Hahnemann has given idea that when this medicine has been proved on the human being, and when this law of proving medicines apply to the human being, so in this way it will improve the immune systems against the the robust or injurious noxious agent from the external world. So this is what the very important. These three lines is helping you to understand that our medicine can improve our immune system and modify our immune system to make the person robust and his health become more unalterable. That means he live optimum health to such an extent. So this is what very important aspect of wisdom is in this understanding. So we are continuing with the process of learning the theory of acute by Dr. Prafull Vijayakar, sir. So up till now we have understood that the conditions of the patients when patient comes to us in an acute state. So we have to observe the activity of the patient, and if the activity has been increased drastically, or if the activity has decreased drastically, or if the activity has no change, then we have to differentiate the each and every remedy according to that activity part. Then we apply the filters of thermal and thirst, and then we apply the filters of the diligent, non-diligent, then we apply the filters of the PQRS of the patient and the change dispositions of the patient. So yesterday we have learned about the activity increase. So increase activity. In this flow chart, we have seen that the increase activity. So in increase activity, we have seen there is a physical activity increase, the physical restlessness. In mental activity, the mental restlessness, and the third one is the verbal activity has been increasing. So, to considering this, there are a few questions in your mind and a few observations in your mind have to come that how we can perceive that it is an increased activity at the level of physical increased activity at the level of mind or the verbal activity. So today we are going to deal about the certain questionnaires that is helping you to understand the how the activity is increased. So, a few questions to confirm that this is what the activity has been increased. So, the activity increase, this increase in activity can take place in the physical sphere or a mental sphere. The mental activity can result in either mental anxiety or a mental hyperactivity. Please do not write on the screen. So we have the categories of the increased activity, that is the physical activity, the physical restlessness without mental anxiety, the mental restlessness without with anxiety, and the verbal activity that we called as the loquacity. So in this case, we have to observe the patients to such an extent that how the person presented to you. So few questions in your mind have to come that how the person's having the activity increase. So the question for confirmation when the activity of the person is increased during the acute state. So first and foremost thing, was the patient awake at his regular time, or he wake awake early, or he was sleeplessness, or something else. So if he awake early because of the fever and everything, so that means his activity has been increased. Did the attendant find it difficult to wake the patient for the food, water, and medicine? So, if it is difficult to wake up the modern, then the activity has been decreased. But it is very easy to wake up the patient, then it's okay. Fine. Then, after waking up, what was that? He was a restlessness or he was anxious. Then you can understand that this activity has been increased. Or is the patient is able to remain awake while communicating, or he become very sleepy? So if it is a sleepy, then we go into the state of a dullness or sleep overpowering. So here you have to think about that gelsemium. The gelsemium is there, so there is a dullness, but he is not sleepy. So these are the few questions. Now, what was the physical restlessness you can think of without the mental anxiety? So here the patient just move or is compelled to move by inner unknown urge. The patient just does not sit in one place, move constantly, knows not for what, and he either paces the floor or goes out for the walk just to keep moving. All this restlessness is not out of the mental anxiety or impatience. So here it is very important to understand that the physical restlessness without a mental anxiety or impatience. So he must have to keep. So in during fever also there is a restlessness of the leg. So this is something you can think of the restlessness physical. So few questions to confirm that with the illness, how the patient is behaving. The patient being pacing the floor constantly, patient is moving constantly, patient having a restlessness of the leg, the patient having restlessness of the hand. So these are the things you can think and observe during the acute state. Is he just sitting in a place or jumping out all over the area? Then also, if it is a children, so sometimes the mother says that फीवर है तो भी वो शांति से बैठता नहीं है जंप करता रहता है भागता रहता है दौड़ता रहता है so that is also there is a increase the activity and restlessness so this is something you have to think about in this condition is he doing his work faster than his usual speed sometime during the fever also their activity has been increased so they started working so very fast so you have to observe these things and sometime the patient will give you idea that everything is going fast or I need to work faster. So I need to finish something. So this is what in spite of having fever. So there is something you have to think is one is the diligency and the fast. It need to very carefully elicit whether it has been a normal tendency of constitutions or the change disposition. So here, when the physical restlessness you can find out, so you need to observe that it is after the acute illness has been happened or it is ongoing process of the constitutional symptoms. So when you find that it is ongoing constitutional symptoms, then it is not found as in acute conditions. But in acute condition, the change disposition is the most important aspect of entry point. Now, yesterday we have learned about the entry of the physical restlessness. Then also we have seen few remedies, which is also repeated in the previous version also. So the mental restlessness, how we can think of mental restlessness. So here we can think that there is a change in the biochemistry of the patient, or there is a neurochemical changes in the mind which lead to ill at ease in the mind and hence patient becomes so much so anxious. So what are the few points in which the patient become anxious or a patient's mental state has been changed or a restlessness? So child keeps on crying or becomes snappy or just become ununderstandably obstinate and start kicking, striking and biting. So these are the reactions comes out of this anxiety or mental restlessness. Or if an adult cannot bear anybody disturbing him or asking him questions of all which send him in a fit of anger. So sometimes you can find out the person become emotionally anger or aggressive during the acute state. Or in short, the mental tolerance of all external stimuli is reduced and causing the patient to go into state of anxiety or state of insecurity or as that of what will happen to me in the next. So this is something you have to observe in mental anxiety or mental restlessness in acute. So few questions to understand that was has the patient become much anxious about his health? So then it is very important so sometimes मुझे क्या हो गया है? The patient was anxious about the illness. Even a slight fever can cause more anxiety. Or sometimes the patient reactions of the mental pictures has been changed. So during fever, he used to weep a lot, he got angry, or sometimes they become a sad, quiet, and morose type of personality. So you can observe these things in acute conditions. So it is also the mental restlessness with anxiety. In case of weeping baby, what is the cause of the cry? So first and foremost, you need to find out the cry of the baby. That is, it is a hunger cry, or it is because of a colic cry, or it is because of pain cry, or it is because of some mental irritability or crankiness. So this is what you have to observe from this. And is it out of the obstinacy, fear, anger, anxiety, or irritability? So then you can think of everything it is in the case. So these are the few questions which help you to understand the mental activity and the mental process. So in this case, the question comes into your mind and you have to observe the patient and then you have to rule in and rule out that this is the mental restlessness, this is the physical restlessness, or sometimes it is a verbal restlessness. And if the activity increase at the level of the verbal activity, that means our area of the speech has been stimulated and that lead to a change in the speech or change in the speed of the speech or change in the uh, what we called as the rhyming and everything, then it is something called as loquacity or a verbal activity has been increased. So, in certain constitutions, when the acute illness can cause the confusion in a certain areas in the brain where due to unsynchronized impulses from the neighboring areas, the interpretations area send chaotic message to the Broca's area and thus the speech is causing a loquacity. So the Broca's area is stimulated by neurochemicals or acute inflammatory conditions or acute infections, and then the biochemistry has been changed, and the biochemistry leading to the reaction in terms of the three process which we call as a verbal activity is loquacity, singing, or mixed verses. So in that case, you need to have a certain question in your mind, and you need to observe the patient that how the patient is behaving in front of you. So you need to observe the speed of the talk is much important. So sometime in acute condition, the speed of the talk can be increased, or sometimes speech become hasty and hurried. So that is also important. It is a change disposition. So you have to take into considerations in when the acute illness is there with the speed of the talk is increased. What is the patient is talking about? Now you have to understand also the what the patient is talking about. What was the context of the talking? So according to that context, you can differentiate certain remedies into it, and then it is very important to understand that this is something that verbal activity increase and what was the context of that. Is the talk relevant to the history, or it is he is not talking about any irrelevant thing? Or is the patient is repeating the same thing or is constantly changing the topic? So if you understand the context of the topic, then you can understand that is he talking the same thing repeatedly. Patient has told you one symptoms again after a few seconds, the patient is telling same symptoms again after that. So this is what something that loquacity repeat the same things. Okay, so you can think of the remedy from this entry point, and that is what you have to understand. And sometimes the changing the topic. So if the person becomes so much so loquacious because of the overstimulation of the Broca's area, and so he can change from one thought to another thought to another thought to another thought. So your history going haphazards, and that is what you have to observe. So this is what very important in your questionnaires, or you have to observe the patient. Has the patient been talking in the same way since before, or it has changed since illness? So this is the things you have to ask the questions. So sometimes the patient is telling कि जब से बुखार आया है इसकी बड़बड़ चालू हो गई है, कुछ ना कुछ बोलता रहता है, कुछ कुछ बातें करता है, पुरानी बातें चालू हो गई है. So that was something you have to observe. और sometimes patient says नहीं नहीं ये तो पहले से ही इतना है, बोलता ही रहता है, अभी कुछ ऐसा चेंज नहीं हुआ. So you have to observe that it is a recent change or it is the dispositions of the patient, or is the verbal activity has been increased or not. So these are the few questions that has come in that has to be come into your mind when the patient comes to you in acute state. So how to understand these things? So loquacity, we call this loquacity is being a talkative personality can be seen in the form of making poems, rhymes, or a songs, or a speech become very fast, or talking of things without any strong backing, or a cursing, etc. So it is the most often observed while talking in the case. So this is what the observations you have to take into consideration. So in this case, the observation is most important. So if the speech is very fast, then few question has to be coming to your mind that in some condition the speech become very fast and he skip few words while speaking. So you need to understand that has the speech changed with the illness, or does he skip some word while speaking? So this is the speech is fast. Irrational, so you have to understand the context of the speech, so you can understand that there is patient is talking without any strong backing or a justification, so it is something irrelevant talk. So you need to observe these things. The again the context of the text person is talking about only on and only business. So this is what delirium talks business about. We have the remedy brahmia in this. So you have to understand in acute state the patient is talking about his best business establishment or his business and how his business runs. So this is something you have to understand. Nonsense things here, the patients continuously talking of the things which means nothing and are thoroughly irrelevant. So this is what the things you have to observe. So easy talk of the patient is relevant or it's just some kind of the nonsense he's talking on. So you have to observe during acute state, or sometimes the some person is talking on only one subject or one particular topic, or he is jumping from one topic to another. So this is what you have to understand. And the cursing. So sometimes the patient become very abusive during the illness, and that is very important. So I had one case. At that time I had not prescribed any remedy, but it was the case of a typhoid fever, and wife and husband came to my clinic, and I prescribed the medicine and advised to sleep outside my cabin. So patient was lying and the wife was just tapping the head of the for a headache. She was massaging his head. So during that stage, he becomes so much so acutely aggressive, and he started abusing in my clinic also. So sometimes this is the abusiveness is there. So you need to observe that the cursing during the acute state. So that has the one of the incidents I have observed, but on that basis I have not prescribed the remedy. So this was the observation. So sometimes you have to observe the things. So these are the loquacity different type of. Now you have to understand the person is talking is in the rhyming or is in the humming, or you actually the person is singing. So you have to observe this also during the acute stage. So you can take directly the delirium singing, or a singing is the entry point, or sometimes the patient is making a verses. So if the person is making a verses and the person is using the words, and this words is in jiggling the words from one word just heard and spoken on that. So that is what you have to understand as the verses makes. So there are few remedy which is there in the verses makes also. So these are the few questions you have to keep in your mind, so that you can observe the patient when the mental or the physical or the verbal activity has been increased. So coming back to our presentations of this, so we will study the activity increase, and yesterday we have studied the mental activity increase. In this para we have seen that the chilly, thirstless, and thirsty remedy. Absolutely, we have seen all the remedy. Now today we are dealing with the hot, mental anxiety increase, hot, thirstless, and thirsty remedy. So when we apply the filters of the thirsty and thirstless remedy, so in thirstlessness, again the repetitions of the few remedy, the same remedy, the pulsatilla, sulfur, and the epis. We know the all the component of the pulsatilla. Pulsatilla wants sympathy and consolations, wants mother, and is aggravated from the rich fruit. Sulfur, we know that the mentally hot, mentally anxiety, hot, thirsty, or thirstless, and there is a concomitant symptom, that is the soles and palms are hot and no active. He has anxiety about health but does not go for the investigation. This is what the entry point of the sulfur with the messy hair. And as we all know, the mental anxiety plus hot and thirstlessness with the urinary complaint, and there is the edematous swelling and the angry personality, you can think of episode. When you find out the mental anxiety, the person is very thirsty, so you have a few remedies, that is the tuberculinum, Merxol, and the chamomilla. As you know that the mental anxiety increase, making the chamomilla persons impatient, and due to that impatience, the patient wants immediate relief. So this is what the rubric there in the chamomilla, that impatience cure at him, insist the physician cure at once. So this was the chamomilla, and very impatient, and sometimes the verbal of the chamomilla become a very snappish, and he goes into this state. So this is what angry, irritable, cranky child. As yesterday we have seen the chamomilla, but this is at the entry point when the mental anxiety increase with the hot and thirsty. We all know the mercury having a restlessness, the mercury become a very disobedient kind of personality, and both mercury and tuberculinum both wants to wander. So both having the physical restlessness and wants to wander. So yesterday we have seen Moxol. Along with that, there is an anarchist, a rebellious kind of personality, rebel against the politics. This is the Moxol, and the excessive perspiration and excessive salivation is the indication for the Moxol. So in this, the mental anxiety plus hot plus thirsty and wants to wander, the remedy is a tuberculinum. So we are dealing with the tuberculinum. So tuberculinum, as you all know, the anti-parenting remedy. So disobedient kind of personality. When the tuberculinum comes to you in acute fever, there is always a loquacity during the fever, like ophidia, and travel or wonder desire to, and desire for the cold milk and the sweets. These are the entry point of the tuberculinum. Again, the physical structure of the tuberculinum, you all know that is a long bone, sharp features, and the sharp nose. So this is what the tuberculinum is. And always the tuberculinum is a restless child, the approaching child, a restless, hyperactive child, and very, very fearless child. And having a anti-parenting. So there is a rubric that is anti-parenting. The tuberculinum and tarantula, these are the two remedies are there in this rubric. So these are the few entry point when you think of the remedy is heart, mental anxiety, and the thirsty with a wonder, travel desire to, with the loquacity during fever, and the fearlessness, and the lean thin, long bones, and sharp features. So these are the few points which we have learned in this hot thirsty and hot thirstless. So these are the few. Already we have repeated the pulsatilla, sulfur, and apis in the previous chapters. So now today's is the understanding that the activity increase, and it is if it is stimulating the Broca's area and the verbal has been changed, then we have to think of certain remedy. Because of this, the neurochemical change in the brain leading to the out of control reactions over the speech, and this lead to the either loquacity, this lead to the singing, or this lead to the verses make, and that is what you need to prescribe on the basis of this. So activity has been increased. So when you find out that the activity has been increased and speech is increasing, so that means the remedy you can think of, it is very, very intellectual remedy in this group of drug, because the output has been increased. So most of the intellectual remedy comes into this group of verbal activity has been increased. So if you find the singing is there as a verbal reaction, so you can have a drug remedy like the belladonna, stramonium, opium, and paracetamol. When you find the person is having a versus make, so you have the remedy like drug remedy like cannabis indica, then the ophidia, then the coffea. Antim goes on versus making on the loves and having a love sick remedy, and the natramur also makes a work because of the heart. So these are the few things you can observe in this. And the loquacity, so in loquacity also the stimulations of the Broca's area. So we have a divisions of the loquacity, that is the fast loquacity, we have a lachesis and pyrogen, the speech become fast. Irrational loquacity, we have a lachesis and a cophia. So most of time the ophidia, cannabis indica, belladonna, cophia, these are the few remedy comes into your mind when the acute state of verbal activity has been increasing. If the person is talking about the business, then think of the bryonia. If the person is talking about irrelevant nonsense things, the argentum metallicum. Person is talking about one subject, you can think of the argentum nitricum, cannabis indica, stramonium. If the person going into curses, swearing curses, and this the abusive type. So you can think about the angry remedy. Most of the angry remedy goes into curses. So anacardium, naxomica, hepar, sulfur, tarantula. These are the senicula. These are the angry remedy goes into this. So going into it, the verbal remedy. So in verbal remedy, we have a three divisions. That is the singing, verses make, and loquacity. As we all know, the singing. So in belladonna, we have the idea that the belladonna is the suddenness, the redness, and the desire for the lemonades, which such a singing will point toward the belladonna. And the songs are usually in the loud voice. So mostly the belladonna goes into this state of loud voice. Again, we know the belladonna from the point of view that it is a suddenness, redness, and desire for lemonades. So these are the few points of the belladonna. When the stramonium goes into this, so stramonium has the same thing, but the stramonium goes into emotions of the fear, and the fear especially aggravated during the dark. So it goes into panic attack in the dark. There is aversion, bright light, and singing and talking on the one subject. The chilly and thusly. So most of time, the ailment from fright is one of the entry point in a stramonium. Face is dull and anxiety and panic stricken. So these are the few indications of the belladonna and stramonium. When you think of the opium, so as you all know, the opium is there in the no change also. Opium is there in the what we call as the sleep overpowering also, and opium is there in this verbal activity has been increased also. So after waking, sleep overpowering, and after waking, the person goes into singing and singing and singing. Then you can think of the opium. So singing, the sleep overpowering, sleep difficult to awaken or disturb like the slightest noise, even a tick of the clock can waken the patient, that is the opium patient. And in most of time, the opium patient having a contented behavior in acute state, never complain of, and there is an ailment from the fright, and the patient is hot. So these are the few indications of the opium. When you think of the veratrum alb, when the veratrum alb also goes into a singing, and the veratrum alb, there is a craving for the veratrum alb is the ice, cold, cool and refreshing things, and lemonades and the juicy things. These are the few indications of the veratrum helping you. Again, there is one physical symptom. There is a cold sweat on the forehead. It is the indications of the veratrum. So chilly in the collapse conditions with the perspirations, and hot otherwise. So veratrum can be chilly, can be hot in both states. The veritrum alb as a disposition is very, very haughty, hopeful, slender, curse at the same time play also. So these are the few things you can think about in veritrum alb as a drug remedy. So these are the things they talk singing always along with singing. There is a few indications that desire for the lemonade. So belladonna and veritrum are similar to that. But veratrum has desire for the cold, icy things, whereas belladonna, coldness, the body, and there is a perspiration on the forehead, the cold perspiration, whereas belladonna is a heat, congestion, and the redness. So these are the few differentiating point of belladonna and veratrum al. When you go to the versus make, so you have a few remedies like a cannabis indica, lacosis, coffea, antimcrude, and netrabur. I must remember that you all know the one of the commentator in the cricket field, and you see his talks is very, very bombastic type of talk, and he makes the verses. So this is the personality having the idea of, so we can make our understanding that this type of the talk is versus make like a cannabis indica. The personality is Navjot Singh Sindhu. You all know cricketer. He has a great power on the command on the verbal, and he talks in the verses and having a lot of verses. So this is what the cannabis indica is. So cannabis indica having a vivacious speech. They laugh a lot. So you all know when you see the what we call as the Kapil Sharma show. So in Kapil Sharma show, you when you see the laugh of the judge, then this is something. It is a laugh. So vivacious speech, the laugh, the talk on one subject. Especially cannabis indica is one of the best remedy for the scientists. So they talk on the science and the mixed verses and chili and vivacious. I must remember one case of the sir. Sir has shared this case. Prafull Vijayakar sir has shared this case in the camp. One of the child came to sir's clinic, and sir was asking the basic history about that. So sir asked about, tell me about your hobby. So he said that I want to play a cricket. So sir says, what is there in the cricket? So he says, I want to play, I want to be a bowler. So sir said, why you want to be a bowler? Why not a batsman? So he said, I need to play with the ball. So sir said, how you play with the ball? So he showed that if I handle this ball in this angle, and I throw in this angle, and if I run to this angle, so it goes on that plate, and then it went to the 45 degrees. So it turn in this way, and then it will make the bold of the patient, bold of the cricketer. So this is what he talks about the science, and on the basis of that, sir prescribed the cannabis indica to that child. So this is what talks of the science. Very important. As you all know, the ophidia, so ophidia is also the loquacity and the versus making. The sensitive part of the ophidia is the throat. There is a sensitive throat and cannot tolerate even a touch or a tight clothing around the throat and the throat pit. So very important. The sleep into aggravation. It is very important and adjusting. So always make a fun out of it because of this humor. So this is what legacies is there in the versus make. So we have a kofia and entim crude. As we all know, the entim crude is the love sick remedy. So in love sick, they goes into a state of the ailment from disappointment in love, and then he started going into making a verses over the love, and they are generally a fatty personality, a chilly personality, aggravation from the sons, and having a gastric disturbances, very, very sentimental and emotional kind of personality, and mostly aggravated during the full moon. So, sentimental during the full moon. Desire for the showers and which aggravate. So, these are the things you can think about in anti-improved personality. Whereas you think of the kofia, so kofia also goes into verses because the kofia having a lot of thoughts in the mind, thought cannot stop, so he have a lot of thoughts and it can express in the form of vivacity, is expressed in the form of irrational talk during the fever, and the kofia is a good planner, so makes a plan for the futures, and kofia is a pleasant talker, so talk pleaser scenes and the surroundings of, and on the basis of he makes the verses on the nature, so because he likes the nature and the pleasant things, so he makes the verses on the natures. So there are the things you can think about. The if the carbovage is there in the verses, so carbovage is the sarcastic remedy, so carbovage make the verses on the sarcastic remarks, whereas the copia is also there is in verses make the copia likes the nature, so make the verses on the nature, and Tim Crude is also there in the verses make. So he is a seek of love, so he makes the verses on the love. So by uh, uh, understanding the verses also you can understand the disposition of the patients and you can think about the different remedies. So copia is easily overjoyed and easily suddenness. So mostly the ailment of the copia is ailment from the excessive joys and the sudden excitement. So this is what the copia can become ill after that. And the dispositional point of view, the copia is a very, very benevolent kind of personality. So in this point of view, you can think of this. Again, Natramur also makes the verses, but you know that the Natramur goes into verses because of he got hurt and he make the verses silently and he become brooders and everything. So this is what you have to think about in this point of view. And then we have a loquacity. As we all know, the legacy has a fast loquacity. The pyrogen is one of the best remedy in acute sepsis conditions. And when you find loquacity with sepsis, you can directly think of pyrogen. Again, there is a temperature disproportionate and the pulse is disproportionate. So that means the temperature is low and the pulse is so high. So disproportionate of the pulse along with the temperature, you can think of the pyrogen. So most of time the delirium sepsis is the indications of the pyrogen with the delirium loquacity. You can think of pyrogen in acute conditions. When there is a septic fever is there. As you all know, the bryonia goes on the business loquacity. You can think of I don't know much about the Argentum metallicum loquacities of a nonsense because I have not used this Argentum metallicum in acute condition. Mostly I have used Argentum metallicum in acute conditions of the hoarseness of the voice of the teacher. So I used to have one teacher in my clinic. She used to talk. She is a very pleasant lady, and she used to teach the students. So many a time, overuse of the voice causes hoarseness of the voice. So on that basis, I have prescribed argentum mat to her, and she was fine. So on that ground, I have prescribed argentum mat, but not on the verbal nonsense activity. I have not prescribed yet argentum mat or nitricum on the basis of that. And you all know that in cursus macis we have an axomica, tarantula, senicula, anacardium, and heparself. Heparself in acute conditions, we become very angry and impulsive, and there is a chilliness, and always comes with the fur in your clinic. So always comes with the sweaters and everything, and having a suppurative tendencies or acute suppurations with the chilliness, you can think of HEP. Sanicula, the sanicula is the combinations of the many remedies, the many minerals remedies like a calcarea, belladonna, and tuberculinum. When you find the three symptoms of calcarea, belladonna, and tuberculinum with the constipation, the constipation is like a round ball, black ball. You can think of the sanicula. Sanicula is one of the remedies. Anacardium I have never used in acute conditions, so I don't know much about the anacardium in acute state. So this will complete the picture of the theory of acute in this regards. So I will share the questionnaires in the group so you can have the enjoy of this. And we have up till now we have completed this book of this. And the third practical part already we have learned in the previous session, the few of the helpful hints. So again, you go through this book and read again diligently and apply this in your clinical practice. Share your clinical cases in the group so that all other can also learn from you. So hope you all have a great learning and great sessions. So any questions? So we have a 5-10 minutes, so we will have a question answer session for today. And if you have any questions, let me know and write in the chat box. So we have completed the theory of acute book today. Up till now, we have completed the 5 books of Dr. Vijayakar sir. First one is the theory of separation. The second one, the homeopathic modern science and homeopathy. Third one, the miasm. Fourth one, the verbatim, and this fifth one is the theory of acute. So you can see this all lectures video on YouTube channel, and all recorded video is uploaded in YouTube channel for all of your educations and further. So the questions, so if you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we will conclude the day today. Requesting all of you to apply this knowledge in your practice and share your acute cases in a group so that all can learn from your experience. So thank you so much. We conclude the day today. Yeah, we'll send everything in groups, so you will get the links and everything. So thank you so much. We conclude the day today, and how to approach in case of the gout. In case of the gout, it is a psychotic in nature, and in that case, you cannot apply the acute remedy. But in this case, you need to prescribe the GCS, a constitutional remedy, Dr. Parag. So the constitutional remedy is taking care of everything, and even acute gout can be treated with this constitutional remedy. So many a time in a olden practice, they used to prescribe what we called as the Berberis vulgaris in acute gout. Another remedy is Formica rufa in acute gout, but I do not recommend it. It will lead to a time being emulation followed by there must be aggravation. So you need to prescribe the constitutional remedy. The constitutional remedy take care of everything. The vocal cord nodule, what should be the probe? The vocal cord nodule is the psychosis and it is hoarseness of the voice. So larynx is associated with the fear. So there must be find out the fear and insecurity regarding to speak something in front of anybody. So it can produce a vocal cord nodule. So you need to find out the fear in the patient. What was the fear? And when you are unable to speak, that lead to the vocal cord nodule. because body is trying to give you a defense mechanism that do not speak. So what is the situation happening in your life that you wish to speak something and you cannot? So that was the things you can, and what was the fear and insecurity associated with that? You need to probe that, and on the basis of that disposition you get, and on the basis of disposition you prescribe the GCS in vocal cord nodule, not the acute remedy or a conflict type of remedy. Okay, so thank you so much. Tinea cases, in tinea cases also, it is very difficult to cure, but nowadays it is easy. Most of time in tinea cases, you can find out the autoimmunity. Why I said because autoimmunity, because the scratching gives you injury and that scratching lead to disturbances at the level of psyche also. So most of time in tinea, you can find out the reproaches oneself, anger on oneself, or there are few autoimmune rubric you can get and you prescribe on the basis of that. So in tinea, it is very difficult to treat, but most of time I used to have my sir used to give me a hint in tinea cases, especially in the female cases, the sepia 200 single dose for 15 days durations, 200 single dose. After 15 days, watch for the patient. If the patient is better, not to repeat. But if it is patient is having a symptoms, again you repeat the sepia, and the patient will may have a benefit. So this is what I have many cases which have cured with the sepia. But after that, I need to know more about the tinea. That in tinea cases, you need to find out some of the autoimmune trait or autoimmune anxiety or autoimmune self reproaches, and that will help you to get the case come out with the single dose or less repetitions. Necrotizing lymphadenitis, the pseudosyphilitic miasm already said. So in that case, you need to find out the disposition with the syphilitic trait. You will get the whole idea because it is a chronic condition. Lymphadenitis is a chronic condition. So in case GCS is the indication, but syphilitic entry point you need to find out in the patient. See, disease name is not important. Disease name is important for the understanding of miasm. But you need, according to miasm, you need to treat the patient and you need to find out the disposition of the patient and whole demeanor of the patient, will, intellect, moral attachment, sensitivity, and everything. So then you can apply this into case, and then you have only two things: either a state remedy or either a GCS. So in this case, you need to enter through the syphilitic entry point and prescribe the GCS. Overuse of the voice also produce no. Yes, absolutely. One of the reason for that overuse of the voice, but there must be the miasmatic nodule is the psychotic miasm. So you need to find out why person goes into psychosis. So there must be some insecurity there, and that insecurity lead to this disease. In autism, do not consider singing and rhyming and everything. It is learned things, so you cannot apply this into autism. But you need to find out why person goes into autism, the cause behind that, and find out that cause and treat accordingly. Okay, don't take the singing and rhyming. So many a time you came across with the few remedy in autism, the belladonna, stemmonium, and some other remedies like this. But it is not like that. So in autism, you need to find out why person goes into a state of autism. Okay. Mostly the insecurity of the fear in the mothers that lead to autism, and mother has adopted the things that I need to cut off the relationship with the society. So the child adopt the same escape mode and goes into cut off mode. So this is what you need to find out. What was the things mother has given signal to the child for cut off the social connections. Idiosyncrasy is the hypersensitivity. So in that case, you need to find out the sensitivity, the SORA. and Sora is the need. So for that understanding, you need to go to the lecture of on the need and sensitivity. So you will get the idea that how to find out the need and sensitivity from the patient, and then you can get the dispositions, and then you prescribe according to the need of the patient. So thank you so much. We conclude the day today. Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend. I will share another book reading afterwards. So we'll share another posters and the details of the meetings in the group later on. So today we conclude the book Theory of Acute by Dr. Prafull Vijayakar. Thank you all for being with us, and thank you together learning. Thank you.